I have white, and I'm going to start with the pawn to e4. We'll see where this leads us, what defense he's going to play. He plays e5, the symmetry. And I'm going to send a king's gambit. Let's see. The move to f4. It's the old opening, the romantic opening. We deflect the black pawn away from the center. And now, the idea is often to play knight f3 to prevent queen h4 check. Then to advance the pawn and recover the pawn on f4 with a strong pawn center. But I'm going to play bishop c4. I'm going to let him play queen h4 check. And then I'll have the f1 square for my king. And maybe I'll be uncastled, but then I'll have the move knight f3, which pushes back his queen, and I'll have better development and certainly a better pawn center. So, at the cost of a slightly weak king, I'm going to have a better center and better development. So in the end, he won't be able to take advantage of my king's weakness. He plays queen h4, so the f1 square for the king, and soon knight f3 is coming. And we're going to play this position. It's going to be interesting. Oh, it's very asymmetrical though. There's a lot of imbalance. There's a threat, often after knight f3, which is if he plays queen g4, we have bishop takes f7 check. And on king takes, knight e5 the fork. And here he plays bishop c5. He's threatening queen f2 mate, a sort of scholar's mate in reverse. So I'm going to play, of course, the pawn to d4 and then knight f3. Actually, it suits me that he played bishop c5 because he let me push the pawn with a gain of time, gaining a move. He retreats to b6 and knight f3. And you see on queen g4, there's the sequence I was telling you about. Bishop takes f7 check, king takes, knight e5, the royal fork. I'm attacking the king and the queen. He goes back to f6, so he didn't fall for that trap, and he's coming to defend the pawn on f4, which my bishop was attacking. If I continue to attack f7 with knight e5, he'll have knight h6 to defend. Of course, I'm looking at the e5 push. This push is interesting. Where will he go with his queen? But maybe it's better to attack his queen while developing my pieces. That is, by playing knight to c3. Yes, in my opinion, that's better. Knight c3 threatens knight d5 with the attack on his queen and the pawn, so he'll certainly play c6 to control this d5 square. But afterwards, when I push e5, I'll have the e4 square for my knight. In the end, he played knight e7 to control the d5 square. But after this push to e5, I'll have the e4 square. But well, on e5, he's going to play queen g6. I might have bishop d3. This position is complicated, but there's play for white. Afterwards, on e5, queen g6, I can recover the f4 pawn. On e5, maybe he'll play queen f5, to which eventually bishop d3. Anyway, I think I have to go for this variation. We'll see where he's going to go with his queen. He plays the queen to c6. That I hadn't anticipated that move. On bishop b5, his queen will have to go, I think, to g6. And this time I could come back to d3. On bishop b5, he can also come to e6, maybe the d5 push. It's not obvious, huh? I can also simply play bishop d3. Let him castle and follow up with bishop takes h7, check, king takes, knight g5 check, and the arrival of my queen. But his queen on the 6th rank could come back to defend. But finally, you see, in this position, I don't really want to chase his queen, because ultimately his knight doesn't have the c6 square. Well, I'm going to play bishop d3. If he pushes the d-pawn, my bishop can come to b5 under the knight's protection, and he loses the queen. And so on bishop d3, he can't try to contest my center with the d-pawn. And if he castles kingside, the bishop will be well placed to attack a7. And in the meantime, I could always recover the pawn on f4. And I'll have a bishop battery towards his castle king. Sometimes the knight, sometimes the queen can come, but also my knight can join the attack too. I have all the white pieces capable of leading the attack against his king, except maybe my rooks. He plays queen h6. He comes to defend the pawn on f4. But I can play g3, but on g3, queen h3 check. King f2, if he takes on check, take. My queen defends the rook. The rook will attack his queen, and I'll have a new piece in play then. Maybe g3, queen h3 check, king f2. I'm facing his bishop. That's what's a little bit annoying. And what am I threatening? I'm not threatening much, huh? Yes, maybe knight g5, which attacks his queen, but his queen can go back to h6, but then there will be bishop takes f4. Well, let's play this move, g3. A little bit of risk-taking. I know I'm weakening my king's defenses, given that my king wasn't already very well hidden by the pawns, but it's for a good cause. King f2. If I go to e2, he enters on g2, so king f2. His pawn takes, and I free the rook, which is protected, and his queen will look for squares. Maybe at some point she won't have any left for that matter. And otherwise I can take back on f4. And I'd have moves to attack his queen like queen f1, bishop f1, knight g5. Maybe I'll manage to catch his queen at some point. He's going to play knight c6, to attack the d4 pawn twice, in my opinion. But I can play bishop f1 to attack his queen, and my queen defends d4 pawn with knight's help. But here he could play pawn takes check, because after recapturing I lose my rook. This time the queen won't protect it. It was maybe not a good idea. This move g3. And there it is. He plays knight c6. So knight e2. Threatening knight takes f4 with the knight to attack his queen, who will have even fewer squares. With my knight being there, it might be even better. And on knight e2, I defend d4 twice. So right now, my king is in a really precarious position. On the other hand, he risks getting his queen trapped. Because there are many pieces on the king side, there is only his queen. So it's really a target for me to attack, a tactical objective. And so he took on g3 with the pawn. Now I want to retake with the pawn to free the rook and attack his queen. I could retake with the knight too, but I wouldn't attack his queen, and I'd have a problem on d4. So I'm retaking with the pawn, and suddenly my rook joins the fight as well. So now I have the bishops aimed at the king side, the rook, both knights, the pawn controlling squares, and sometimes the queen. I hope I'll manage to trap his queen. It's unbelievable. If he goes to e6, maybe knight f4, he goes to g4. So what move do I have to attack his queen? Obviously here, we immediately look at rook h4. That's the first move. But I'm checking if I have another one. But I like rook h4. It attacks his queen while defending d4, actually. So let's play rook h4. His queen might go to e6, which is what happens. And now I'm immediately looking at knight f4, of course, but I'll lose control of d4. Now, it doesn't matter. If he plays bishop takes check, I can retake, and he won't be able to retake with his knight. So I'll still win a piece in the process. Do I have another way to attack his queen? Knight g5. The rook defends d4. That's the advantage with knight g5. He won't be able to take on d4, but he'll come to d5. Pawn c4. Oh no, on knight g5, he can play queen takes c5. The d4 pawn is actually pinned, you see? Ah, that's clever. So it's knight f4. I don't see any square for his queen, because here I'm attacking his queen. I'm controlling the d5 square, so obviously he takes on d4. That was to be expected. Now, I don't even know if I should take his bishop. If I play king g2, where does his queen go? On f6, there's my pawn. On g6, my bishop and knight. On h6, there's my rook. On f5, there's my bishop. That's controlled if he takes, my knight takes. On d5, there's my knight, there's my bishop, there's my pawn. So simply king g2. And finally, we've managed to trap his queen. I hope I haven't missed a square. It happens to me sometimes. So sometimes you have the opportunity to give up your queen for several pieces, but here that's not even necessarily the case. He'll be able to grab a piece for the queen, maybe with a few pawns up, but that won't compensate for it. So he plays knight to f5. And now we're going to take his queen right away. Luckily, my bishop on the dark square is there. Otherwise, there'd be this fork where he could win back the queen. He takes with check. How to take back? Certainly with the knight. Now, taking back with the pawn allows me to keep an eye on his bishop on d4. So I might actually take back with the pawn. And then the knight, it had to stay there to defend as well. So here I can take, knight takes, and I don't have bishop b5 check because the knight would catch me. But I think I'm going to play bishop e4 anyway. So he can't take the pawn on e5, otherwise I take his knight with check and then I take his bishop. And if he plays knight takes, of course he loses his bishop on d4. So now the threat is to take his knight with check and then grab his bishop. After that I have threats like bishop g5, taking his knight and looking for mate on d8. And if he does kingside castling, he'll face attacks based on bishop takes h7 check, knight g5 and queen h5. He might try to play bishop d7 and queenside castling. That's why I'm going to break his structure right away. And here I'm looking at a move like knight g5 to put a little pressure on f7, but don't I have something better? I'm going to play queen e2. That could allow me to support the exchange of bishops of dark squares and simplify the position, but my queen can also come to c4 to attack c6. He does kingside castling. I'm going to play knight g5 to then look to attack h7, and on h6, maybe move my knight and look for bishop takes sacrifices. Pawn takes, queen takes, knight f6 check with a mating attack. He's going to try to put his light square bishop on the long diagonal and attack with both his bishops. No, he played f5, he'll want to play bishop f6, but it's too late, queen h5. I'm threatening mate, so he's going to play h6. And you see on h6, knight e4. And now the threat is bishop takes h6, which allows me to dismantle his king's shelter, sacrificing the piece for several pawns. But then I have the f6 square, and knight f6 with the queen will lead to mate. Does he have time to play bishop b7 and c5 to pin my knight? We'll see. That's what he plays, bishop b7. So let's calculate it. Bishop takes h6. If he plays c5, he'll attack my knight with check. That's why I'm actually even looking at knight f6 check immediately. If pawn takes back, and the pawn can help me attack his king, but he'll play king h7. No, there'll be queen takes e6 mate. So we're going to play this knight f6 check. On king h8, bishop takes, and if he takes back, queen takes mate. If he plays c5 check, I'll go to h2. There's no problem. So he takes on f6, and then I take back with the pawn, and I threaten queen g4 and queen g7 mate. He won't be able to come to h7. Queen takes h6 with the bishop protecting. And if he moves the rook, I do queen takes h6 to control the f8 square, so his king can't escape. And then queen g7 mate. Now he's going to play a little c5 move anyway to give me a check, just to remind me he can pull my ears. But after all, king h2. And as soon as my bishop moves, it's also my rook that can join the attack. I won't need it, but it's always there just in case. There, he gives me a check, king h2, he plays c6, and we're going to have mate with queen g4 and queen g7. And this time he resigns. But don't leave just yet. What would you have played with black instead of bishop c5? Because here obviously it threatens mate on f2, but it's very easy to push back the bishop by playing d4, and ultimately it helps white's development. But what should have been played? Well, in the position it might seem surprising, but the best move for black is d6. Too bad we leave the f8 bishop locked in for now. In any case, it's the most played move by grandmasters in this position, the move d6. Black can also try knight f6. It's not bad. It's played less, but not bad. To which white plays knight f3, as expected, right? And on queen h6, knight c3, we come to defend the e4 pawn, although we don't necessarily need to defend it, this pawn, because on knight takes a4, there are pinning problems after queen to e2. And on knight c3, once again, the best move for black is to continue with d6, d4 the center, bishop e7. And here, white must play king g1 to prepare the g3 push. And why not g3 right away? Because of queen h3 check. So king g1 to push g3 and win the pinned f4 pawn. For example, on kingside castling, we play g3. Here with black, we can still fight to hold f4 by playing knight h5. But with the knight no longer there, the d5 square is now available for the white knight on d5. And that leads to a complicated game. It's sort of the type of position you can get in this King's Gambit variation. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. You can leave me some thumbs up, comments, share the video, and support the channel. Goodbye, everyone.